In the next story, a woman's Thanksgiving took a creepy turn on a dark country road, and we'll call this story Dead End.
I'm a 30-year-old female and a nursing student, and this unsettling incident happened during Thanksgiving 2020. The day started off on a high note as I passed an exam with a score of 86. I then spent pre-Thanksgiving with my boyfriend and his family. However, my boyfriend had to leave for a Cal Fire base on the night before Thanksgiving, so I spent that evening at my brother's house. I decided to head home around 8 p.m. I was tired but felt a surge of energy, perhaps due to my somewhat manic mental state. In this state, I decided to surprise my sister with a gift for her and her kids, as she hadn't responded to my messages. I made my way to her house, and the day turned out to be filled with fun, food, drinks, and dancing. Around 6 p.m., I started planning my trip to leave my boyfriend's temporary home. We had a bit of an argument as I told him I'd start my 3-hour drive around 1 a.m. He was a bit nervous about my journey. However, we eventually reached an agreement on my departure time. The festivities continued at my sister's house, with alcohol, fun, Thanksgiving celebrations, family pictures, and more food. I decided to take a nap, but due to my manic state, I also wanted to shower and fix my hair. This delayed my nap, and I ended up lying down around midnight. I set an alarm for 1 a.m., but I ended up sleeping through it. My sister, who asked me why I hadn't left yet, I rushed out of her house but left my phone behind. Once I had my phone, I set out on my journey again. However, I took a wrong turn due to mixing up two cities with similar names, both starting with H. Once I corrected my route, I was on my way. The first hour of the drive was a bit frustrating, and at one point I thought I had left my vape pens behind as my sister had mentioned it. I later found the vape pens in my purse, which was a relief. As I left the city limits of Sacramento, I found myself in a race with a lifted Silverado. My competitive spirit got the better of me, and I decided to join the race. We reached speeds of up to 120 miles per hour for about 10 minutes before I realized it wasn't worth the risk of getting a ticket. After the Silverado took an exit, it was just me and another driver in a dark, rural area. The other driver seemed to be closely following my car, and my focus was on making it safely rather than on the car beside me. We reached a small town where we had to travel through a few miles on a major street, going through stoplights. At one point, I felt annoyed by how close the other driver was to my car. However, after a few lights, the driver turned off, and I felt a bit childish for being bothered by it. But my sense of unease returned when, a few lights later, I noticed the same car had returned to the main street. It was the only other car on the road and seemed to be purposefully staying on my right side. My fear began to build, and I hesitated to call my boyfriend as I wondered if I was just being paranoid. I had driven alone for long distances at night before, but I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. As we approached a traffic light, my brain went into overdrive, and I decided to stay calm. However, as the light changed, I stayed put, and the other car didn't move either. When I finally glanced to my right, I could see the silhouette of a person's face under a hat staring at me. My heart raced, and I decided to drive through the intersection slowly, maintaining my composure. The other driver's car remained still, and a car behind us honked impatiently. It was then that I noticed a truck in the distance approaching the last traffic light on the one-lane road. I accelerated to reach the light, but the other driver matched my speed. Panicked, I veered to the left into oncoming traffic to get around the truck. My rationalization was to speed up and take my chances with the police if necessary. The other driver followed suit, dangerously weaving between lanes. Even as I sped up to 120 miles per hour, the other car stayed close behind. After about 10 minutes, I began to slow down, eventually reaching 80 miles per hour and then 65 miles per hour. I finally stopped at a store with many customers to ensure my safety. I entered the store, visibly shaken and struggling to pay for my coffee and cigarettes due to my trembling hands. The sun was rising, and I was almost at my destination. I was still shaking and had a persistent headache. When I reached my boyfriend's place, he sensed something was wrong. I explained the terrifying experience to him, and although he was upset, he provided comfort and insisted I avoid late-night drives from then on. This incident served as a stark reminder that no one, regardless of gender, should think it's okay to drive alone into rural areas at night.